It may be back to the drawing board for Florida lawmakers as a judge says this new congressional district map needs to be drawn for the state. The area that you see here in light green, this was at the center of this lawsuit that's happened, and this was the Congressional District 5 in a map that was put in place in 2016. I'll show it to you right here. This is the enacted districts that changed it, all right? So the district stretched from Duval County out to the Tallahassee area. It was represented by Democrat Al Lawson. Last year, lawmakers passed this map. This one took away that Al Lawson district that I was talking about right there. This was backed by Governor Ron DeSantis, and it broke up the district, putting the Duval County portion in what's now District 4. You see it here in blue. This was covered all of Nassau and Clay counties and a large part of Duval, now represented by Republican Aaron Bean. This weekend, a Tallahassee judge said this map violates the Florida Constitution. He's ordered a new one to be drawn. News for Jax reporter Jim Pickett joins us live. He spoke with a local pastor who was one of the voters who filed the lawsuit. Jim?
You know, Ken, I got to tell you, this was definitely a rough week for Jacksonville. We had the mass murder, we had the storms, and now we have what a judge is throwing out that could change the congressional representation in North Florida. So as you had mentioned, I spoke to Pastor Gundy today, who's always been speaking out on voting rights, but he says this is just a start. Elected last year, Republican Congressman Aaron Bean is the first Republican to represent Jacksonville's minority voters in Northwest Jacksonville in 3 decades. But how his district was created, according to a Tallahassee judge, was unconstitutional. The judge says the new district diminishes black voters' ability to elect the candidate of their choice. Pastor R.L. Gundy was one of several who filed suit over the redistricting process. He says this ruling is an important step.
We just have to keep pecking like a woodpecker at one thing at a time. We may break the beak every now and then and lose a few battles, but if we keep pecking, we eventually are going to be successful. This is a great victory for this community. It's a great victory for this state. It's a great victory for this country, because this is what democracy looks like.
But the legal fight may not be over. We spoke with our political analyst, Rick Mullaney, about what happens now. He said, I'm not surprised given the recent federal court rulings. However, this is not a settled area of law, and it likely will be appealed. While it may not have an impact until next year when voters go to the polls for the next congressional election, Supervisor of Elections Jerry Holland says they have to be ready for the possible change.
We don't even know how they would adjust the lines. We'll be prepared to do it. But again, we're waiting, as you mentioned earlier, there could be an appeal. The appeal could even push it out further. Will it make the 2024 elections? All those kind of things are still up in the air.
Political observer Marcella Washington has been involved in other redistricting lawsuits. She says the results of the possible appeal, which could end up in the state Supreme Court, will tell a lot about the future of Jacksonville.
So that's a very conservative body right there. But even they have to take into consideration the nature of politics in the state of Florida, the idea that blacks are clearly not represented. And also, they must be aware that with the shooting that we had, this massacre at Dollar General right here in Jacksonville, Florida, speaks to the fact that we had no congressional representatives there in Washington to bring this issue forward to the national level.
You know, I was able to speak with Aaron Bean late this afternoon. His office did issue a statement that basically says that we can't comment on pending litigation. And Congressman Bean is very proud to represent and serve his constituents and community in Congress. And he told me once this gets solved and resolved, he'd be happy to talk to me on camera. For now, we're live on the South Bank. Jim Pickett, Channel 4, the local station.